6 Essential Pillars of Support After 60, Stronger Than Family. When you turn 60 and beyond, who will truly stand by your side? When you're younger, the answer might seem obvious: your family, your closest friends, the people you've known for years. But once you turn 60, reality starts to look a little different. Life changes, people get busy, priorities shift, and suddenly you realize that the support system you always believed in might not be as reliable as you once thought. In this article, we're going to uncover 6 essential pillars that become more dependable than family as you get older. This isn't about pushing people away, it's about understanding where real stability comes from and making sure you're not left vulnerable when you need support the most. When you build a strong foundation based on these 6 pillars, you gain the security and independence that will carry you through life's challenges. Stay tuned until the end because these 6 pillars may completely change the way you think about support. And once you understand them, you'll never feel powerless, alone, or unprepared again. Now, let's get started. Pillar 1: Your financial stability. The most reliable support you'll ever have isn't a person, it's your financial independence. Money may not buy happiness, but it does buy security, freedom, and peace of mind. The older you get, the more you realize that relying on family for financial help is not a plan, it's a risk. Your children have their own lives, their own expenses, and their own families to take care of. Even if they love you deeply, they may not always be in a position to help when you need it most. Think about Richard, a 72-year-old man who always assumed his children would step in if he ever faced financial trouble. He had helped them through college, lent them money when they needed it, and was always there when they called. But when an unexpected medical issue drained his savings, he turned to his kids for help, only to realize that they were struggling with their own mortgages, their own bills, and their own financial challenges. Not because they didn't care, but because life is unpredictable. That's why financial stability is one of the strongest pillars of support you can build. It's not about being wealthy, it's about being prepared. It's about having a plan for emergencies, a steady source of income that you can rely on, and a clear understanding of how to manage your money so that you never have to depend on anyone else to get by. If you're in your 60s or beyond, it's time to ask yourself, do I have enough saved to cover unexpected expenses? Is my retirement income secure? Have I minimized financial risks that could put me in a vulnerable position? If the answer is no, the time to take action is now. Learn how to budget wisely, avoid unnecessary debt, and invest in things that will bring long-term stability. Because at the end of the day, your financial security is the one thing that will always stand by you, no matter what life throws your way. Pillar 2: Your physical health. There's one thing in life that no amount of love, money, or support from others can replace: your health. After 60, your body becomes either your greatest ally or your biggest obstacle. The truth is, you can have all the financial security in the world, but if your health fails, your freedom disappears. And while family may care about you, they can't exercise for you, they can't eat the right foods for you, and they can't stop the effects of aging for you. That responsibility falls entirely on you. Too many people neglect their health, assuming that when the time comes, someone will be there to take care of them. But the reality is, even if your family loves you, they have their own lives. They may not have the time, energy, or ability to be your caregiver, and depending on others to manage your well-being can leave you feeling powerless. That's why prioritizing your health now is one of the most important investments you can make for your future. Take the story of Carl, a 68-year-old man who had always been active in his younger years but let himself go after retirement. He figured he had plenty of time to get back in shape, but before he knew it, his energy levels dropped, his mobility declined, and simple tasks became difficult. His children visited when they could, but they couldn't be there every day to help him. Eventually, he realized that if he wanted to maintain his independence, he had to take control of his health. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now. You don't have to train like an athlete, but small, consistent efforts make all the difference. Move your body every day, eat foods that fuel you instead of harm you, and take your checkup seriously. If you've been ignoring warning signs, aches that won't go away, difficulty walking, changes in energy levels, it's time to stop pushing them aside. Your future self will thank you for every healthy choice you make today. Because at the end of the day, your strongest support system isn't your children, your siblings, or your friends, it's your own ability to stay strong, active, and capable. And the more you prioritize your health now, the less you'll have to rely on anyone else later. Pillar 3, your social circle. One of the biggest mistakes people make as they get older is isolating themselves. Maybe it happens slowly, friends move away, loved ones pass on, and before you know it, your social circle has become smaller than you ever imagined. The problem is, without strong friendships, loneliness creeps in. And loneliness, especially after 60, is dangerous. It doesn't just affect your emotions, it affects your health, your mental sharpness, and even your lifespan. You might assume that family will always be there to keep you company, but here's the truth, your children have their own lives. They have careers, families, and responsibilities that keep them busy. They may love you deeply, but they can't be your only source of companionship. That's why one of the most important pillars of support is your social network, the people who check in on you, who make you laugh, who bring energy into your life. These relationships are not a luxury, they are a necessity. Look at someone like Margaret, a 73-year-old woman who always relied on her family for companionship. She had 2 sons, both of whom loved her dearly, but as the years went by, they became busy with work and raising their own children. They still called, but the daily visits and weekend gatherings grew less frequent. Margaret started to feel lonely, waiting for phone calls that didn't always come. Then, she made a change. She started reconnecting with old friends, joining a community group, and even picking up new hobbies that introduced her to new people. Suddenly, her life was filled with conversations, shared laughter, and a sense of purpose. She didn't have to wait on her family to feel connected, she built that connection herself. Friendships, community groups, and even casual acquaintances give you something priceless, a sense of belonging. Whether it's a neighbor you chat with, a book club you attend, or a group at your local gym, having people in your life outside of your family creates a foundation of emotional strength. And the more connections you build now, the more support you'll have in the years to come. So ask yourself, who do you have in your life right now that brings you joy? If the answer isn't clear, it's time to expand your circle. Because at the end of the day, a strong social network isn't just about having company, it's about having people who lift you up, remind you of your worth, and make every stage of life richer. Pillar 4, your sense of purpose. One of the most overlooked sources of support in life isn't another person, it's your own sense of purpose. After 60, many people start to feel a shift. The roles that once gave life meaning, being a parent, a worker, a caregiver, start to fade. Retirement sets in, children become independent, and the pace of life slows down. Without a clear sense of direction, it's easy to start feeling invisible, unneeded, or even lost. The truth is, no matter how much your family loves you, they can't give you purpose. That's something you have to build for yourself. Having a reason to wake up in the morning, whether it's a passion, a project, or a goal, keeps your mind sharp, your emotions steady, and your life fulfilling. It's what keeps you engaged with the world instead of just watching from the sidelines. Think about someone like George, a 70-year-old retired engineer. When he left the workforce, he was excited to finally relax, but after a few months, he started feeling restless, like something was missing. His days felt empty. His kids visited occasionally, but they had their own lives. That's when he decided to take action. He started volunteering at a local school, teaching young kids how to build things. Before long, he had a new reason to get up every morning, something that made him feel valued, useful, and engaged with life. Purpose doesn't have to come from a job. It can be anything that makes you feel alive, learning something new, mentoring others, gardening, painting, traveling, or even just setting personal goals. It's about doing things that bring you joy and keep you mentally and emotionally active. If you've been feeling like your best days are behind you, it's time to change that mindset. Your purpose isn't something that disappears as you age, it evolves. And the more you invest in finding meaning in your daily life, the less you'll need to rely on others for happiness. Pillar 5, your emotional resilience. Life has a way of testing you, no matter how old you are. After 60, challenges don't stop, they just change. Friendships fade, loved ones pass on, health issues arise, and sometimes life feels lonelier than it used to. The truth is, no matter how much support you have from others, the most reliable source of strength will always come from within. Your ability to adapt, process emotions, and find peace in difficult moments is what keeps you moving forward, even when circumstances don't go the way you expected. Too many people rely on family to be their emotional support system, believing that their children, siblings, or extended relatives will always be there to comfort them. But the reality is, everyone has their own battles to fight. They might not always have the time or energy to be the source of emotional stability you need. That's why building emotional resilience is so important. It allows you to find strength within yourself instead of constantly seeking it from others. Take the story of Helen, a 75-year-old woman who lost her husband after 40 years of marriage. At first, she leaned on her children for emotional support, but over time, she realized that while they cared deeply, they had their own families and responsibilities to manage. She knew she couldn't expect them to fill the void she felt inside. Instead of letting grief consume her, she focused on strengthening herself emotionally. She joined a support group, started journaling, and practiced daily gratitude. Over time, she discovered something powerful: she didn't need someone else to fix her sadness. She had the strength to heal on her own. Emotional resilience isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending to be strong all the time. It's about acknowledging pain, processing it in a healthy way, and developing coping mechanisms that allow you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. It's about having outlets, whether it's writing, meditation, therapy, or simple self-reflection, that help you find peace within yourself instead of depending on others to provide it. No matter what life throws your way, the ability to stand strong on your own will always be one of your greatest sources of support. Pillar 6, your ability to adapt. If there's one truth about life after 60, it's this: nothing stays the same. People change, circumstances shift, and the things you once counted on may no longer be as reliable as they used to be. The key to thriving in this stage of life isn't holding on to the past, it's your ability to adapt. Those who struggle the most with aging are often the ones who resist change, who cling too tightly to what was instead of embracing what is. But those who learn to adjust, to stay open, and to welcome new possibilities, find joy and fulfillment no matter what life brings. Many people assume that once they reach a certain age, they're set in their ways, but that kind of thinking can be dangerous. It can keep you from discovering new opportunities, meeting new people, and learning things that could enrich your life. Being adaptable isn't just about accepting change, it's about actively looking for ways to grow with it. Look at someone like Frank, a 78-year-old man who had always relied on in-person friendships to stay connected. When many of his friends moved away or passed on, he initially felt lost. He thought, "I guess this is just how it is when you get older." But then, instead of resigning himself to loneliness, he decided to adapt. He learned how to use video calls to stay connected with distant family, joined an online discussion group about history, and even made a few new friends in the process. Instead of letting change defeat him, he allowed himself to grow with it. The people who thrive after 60 aren't necessarily the ones with the most resources or the strongest support system. They are the ones who refuse to be stuck in their ways, who remain curious, and who find ways to adjust no matter what life throws at them. If a door closes, they look for another. If a relationship changes, they find new ways to connect. If something is no longer working, they're willing to try something different. Your ability to adapt is one of the greatest pillars of support you will ever have. It allows you to navigate life with resilience, optimism, and confidence. And the more you embrace change instead of fearing it, the less you'll feel like you're losing something, and the more you'll realize that every stage of life offers something new to gain. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is to keep giving to people who don't appreciate it. As parents, we do this more often than we realize. We give our time, our energy, our support, even when it's not acknowledged, even when it's taken for granted, even when we're met with nothing but entitlement. But here's the truth: when you give to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't build love, you don't build respect, you build expectation. They stop seeing your kindness as something valuable and start seeing it as something they're entitled to. And the moment you stop, they don't feel grateful, they feel inconvenienced. I once knew a man named George, a father who had always been generous with his children. He helped them financially whenever they needed it, dropped everything to assist them, and even rearranged his life to accommodate their needs. But instead of gratitude, he was met with complaints. They didn't say thank you, they expected more. And the worst part? When he finally needed their help, they were too busy. Then one day, George made a change. He stopped overextending himself. He stopped offering help before it was even asked, and most importantly, he started saying no when he needed to. At first, his children were frustrated. They didn't understand why he wasn't bending over backward for them anymore. But over time, something shifted. They started valuing his time, they started appreciating his efforts, because suddenly, they realized his generosity wasn't unlimited, it was a gift, not a guarantee. If you feel like your children don't respect your time, your effort, or your kindness, take a step back. Ask yourself, are you giving more than you should? And if so, what would happen if you stopped? Because when you teach people that your generosity is conditional on respect, they will start treating it that way. Action 6. Build a life outside of them. One of the most powerful ways to regain your children's respect is to show them that your happiness doesn't revolve around them. As parents, it's natural to devote ourselves to our children, to make them the center of our lives. But as we get older, that dynamic shifts. And if you've spent your entire life prioritizing them, they may start seeing you as someone who has nothing else going on. People respect those who have their own purpose, their own interests, their own sense of fulfillment. If your children see that you rely on them for entertainment, validation, or meaning, they might start feeling suffocated, or worse, they might start seeing you as someone who has no life of their own. I knew a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s. After her husband passed, she poured everything into her children's lives, checking in constantly, giving advice they didn't ask for, expecting them to fill the space that her husband once did. But instead of drawing them closer, it pushed them away. They visited less, their calls became shorter, and Eleanor felt more alone than ever. Then she made a choice. She joined a book club, she started traveling with friends, she volunteered at a local community center. She stopped making her children the center of her world, and something incredible happened. Her children started reaching out more. They were curious about what she was doing, they admired her independence, and they respected her. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see you as someone with a full, meaningful life, or do they see you as someone waiting around for their attention? Because when you show them that you are living, not just existing, they will start seeing you in a completely different light. Underscore 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 underscore. Final thoughts. Respect is not something you can demand from your children. It's something you inspire, through the way you carry yourself, through the way you set boundaries, and through the way you live your life. If they have started treating you with less care, less consideration, or less respect, don't waste your energy getting angry. Instead, shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval because the less you need it, the more they'll give it. Led by example, because your dignity speaks louder than your words. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because the more self-sufficient you are, the more they'll respect your presence. Set boundaries, because people will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving without appreciation, because when generosity is taken for granted, it loses its value. And most importantly, build a life outside of them, because people respect those who have their own purpose, their own joy, and their own sense of fulfillment. If you do these things, something incredible will happen. Your children will start seeing you in a different light, not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being who they are. And in time, that respect will come back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.